Mic check one, two.
Yo, get out of here with them weak ass shoes, yo.
Balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep in love. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep in love.
Welcome, Balls Deep fam, to another episode of Balls Deep with Devin and Jovan. As you can see, Jovan is not present, and in his place is our special guest, Isaiah. It seems like when Jovan's not here, Isaiah, you're the go-to. You the go-to. So, thank you for joining us. And first and foremost, I want to apologize because we haven't had an episode in a week. Last week we didn't drop an episode at all. That was unexpectedly, it was very unexpected, so it wasn't intentional, so we apologize. But we're here to drop some gems today and from here on out. So bear with us. But first and foremost, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe if you haven't already, and show some love. And we'll definitely show love back. We definitely enjoyed the raffle that we had, the giveaway, and we're hoping we can do some more of that, in the near future. So show some love, and we'll get to that very soon. So, but for today's episode, we're going to be talking about the NFL and the free agency drama, or saga, I should say, with all these releases going on. I know me and Jovan touched on, the bloodbath that was pending or just beginning in our last episode. And since then, there's been a lot of signings, a lot of releases. Things are getting interesting in the NFL, and the 2021 season is looking like it's going to be very interesting, and we haven't even got to the draft yet. So we're going to talk about, our favorite signings, our least favorite signings, who we think, has won free agency thus far, and who's, our loser of free agency thus far. We're just going to, try to go with the win and see where this conversation takes us. But Isaiah, I know you're a Falcons fan, so how do you think, your Falcons are panning out in free agency so far?
I think with the Falcons, with getting Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot, they're doing what they said they would do, and that's pretty much, fix our team with the best that's available and make sure they make the right choice, the step towards that, because he takes away our need from looking for a running back right away, and he's someone who stepped up for Christian McCaffrey last year and showed what he can do given the opportunity. So I think signing him gives us a little bit of breathing room going into the draft, and helps us from whatever we need on defense, or maybe if we want to go get Kyle Pitts at tight end, or it just gives us that little bit of extra room that we need at the moment. And so that's my.
That I'm aware of. I think that's the biggest signing you guys have had thus far in free agency. I know you guys had little signings like Barkevious Mingo, but you guys had a few departures. In Keanu Neal, who went to Dallas, Alex Mack, who went to the 49ers. So those are two big blows on both sides, on offense and defense. So if only you guys can recover, because you guys have a tough division ahead of you, even though Drew Brees has retired. Yes, he has announced his retirement officially. I know we haven't talked about that on the podcast. The Saints are still a quality squad. So
yeah,
this division is tough, and you have the defending champs, the Bucs, sitting in at the top of your division. So you got a long way to go to compete. And talent-wise, offensively, you guys are there, like in terms of playmakers. You just need a lot more, and it's almost like the Giants last season. They were, we didn't have any playmakers on the offensive side, but our defense was like in win now mode, and our offense was like in rebuild mode. So we're like, we weren't doing so well. But as a Giants fan today, I'm one happy camper, boy. So the Giants, they started off sketchy, and it pissed me off because they released our best offensive lineman, And I'm like, fuck, Kevin Zeitler. What are we going to do now? What are we going to do now? And then Leonard Williams, they franchise tag Leonard Williams, and it was pretty much holding, his cap hit was pretty much holding the Giants hostage. It was a $19 million cap hit. And so we couldn't even re-sign Dalvin Tomlinson because we needed to sign him to a long-term contract to even create the space for Dalvin Tomlinson. So before we even were able to sign him to a long-term deal, Dalvin Tomlinson, departed and went to Minnesota. And I'm like, great. Then we come to an agreement with Leonard Williams. And that's where the spree began. I mean, we had, it started off with, Devontae Booker, and I still don't understand the financials to that deal. I understand why we went and got him because his special team ability, and he's essentially going to be our third string running back. He's going to fill the Deion Lewis role.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one I didn't understand. But then a lot of their signings had to do with low risk, high reward. You went and got John Ross, the receiver, former first round pick. That was on a 1-year deal. That was nice. You got Reggie Ragland on a 1-year deal, a linebacker who has Super Bowl experience when he played for the Chiefs. He's a run stopper, and he has Bama history. We know Joe Judge and his history with Bama. So that is a low risk, high reward at that. But then you top it off, with the biggest receiver on the market, Kenny Gallaudet. Happy Gallaudet, everybody. You already know Kenny Gallaudet is he's in blue. And they didn't just stop there. So, the Titans, they had a corner. They drafted not that long ago Adoree Jackson in the first round. They released him for financial reasons. And we was like, come on down to MetLife and sign that boy too. So those two signings alone were big. And we didn't just sign them to 1-year deals. We signed them to multi-year contracts. Some people are saying that we overpaid for one or the other, or maybe both. But hey, it might seem like we're overpaying now, but if they play to their potential or what we're accustomed to from them when healthy, those are bargains because those contracts are not going to be as high as they are now. We're probably going to have to we would have probably had to pay a premium later if we sign them to a short-term contract. So the potential is sky is the limit, or like Michael Jordan said, the roof is the ceiling. So these two signings allow us flexibility because they were emphasizing playmakers. They got Gallaudet. Then now we needed a cornerback too. We got Adoree Jackson to solidify our secondary. So going into the draft at number 11, it's looking like we could just draft best player available, because we're not required to go out and kind of reach for a player. Not saying we're not going to get a receiver, because there's plenty of receivers. We got a couple Bama guys out there that we can grab. And so it's not like we can't grab a receiver, but we can, grab offensive lineman, edge, Micah Parsons if he's there at linebacker. We could trade back. I know Gettleman's not, that's not part of his game plan. He's never done it, but there's always a first for everything. So as a Giants fan, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And that doesn't come often under, this Gettleman tenure, so appreciate it. I give credit when it's due. And he's doing a good job, or I should say doing a great job. So I can't wait to see what they do in the draft. I'm looking forward to next season. And people like Stephen A. Smith, Max Kettleman, he said the Giants are, the team to beat in the NFC East. And Stephen A. Smith laughed it off. I don't understand it. I don't get what was so comical, because I honestly think the Giants are the most balanced team in the division, offense and defense. Yes, the Cowboys have the best offense in the division, but defensively, they're at the bottom. The Giants are at the top when we're talking offense and defense. So, stay sleeping. We're going to surprise some folks. If you're not, already on the Dan wagon, get on the Dan wagon now, because
oh my God,
Danny Dimes, if he doesn't succeed next season, it's on him, and we know he's not the guy for the future. But if he comes out and plays like he should play, we're good. We're set up for the future. But enough of talking about the Falcons and the Giants. I know we might touch on them later on too, but what was your favorite signing of free agency thus far? It doesn't necessarily be the Falcon signing. It could be anybody, or you got multiple.
My favorite signing, honestly, if I'm being real with you, my favorite signing so far was Kenny Galladay, and that's just because like you look at where the Giants are right now, and like signing Kenny Galladay to the rest of the league and not being a Giants fan, it almost makes you forget that they have Saquon Barkley that's coming back. And so in my head, before I even thought of Saquon, I'm thinking, all right, they got Kenny Galladay, so you can pretty much, you got Evan Ingram, Sterling Shepard, and they're already receivers that it changes. And so I think the Giants stand to benefit so much with that on offense that it'll be a sight to see next year. And I think it all depends whether Daniel, comes in and he just, does what he's supposed to do. That's it. If he does that, I think they are the team to beat, honestly. So
I mean, he's a down the field guy. In terms of numbers, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he's at the top of the league since 2018 in terms of, I think, his 20-plus yard plays.
Mhm.
He's, I believe, top 5, if not top 3. And Daniel Jones, that's the best part of his game is the deep ball. So, but Jason Garrett doesn't utilize that, with his curls, his flat routes, his slants. But now it looks like we're gonna go vertical and get aggressive because we signed Gallaudet, who to stretch the field. We signed John Ross to stretch the field. So Gallaudet, I've said it before and I'm gonna say it again. This Gallaudet signing reminds me of the Plexico Burress signing years ago, and everyone that's hating on the Giants because of the signing, like, yeah, you got receivers now, but look at who's your quarterback. Just look what Stephon Diggs did to Josh Allen's career in one season. Look what Plexico Burress did to Eli's career when he joined the Giants. Like that, sometimes you just need that extra player to help you grow. And I think Galladay's that guy. Gallaudet in his media interview said he's still growing as a player too, and he wants to grow together with Danny Dimes. So I'm looking forward to that connection. It should be a good one. My favorite pickup wasn't necessarily a Giants pickup. So I know I'm getting excited about the Giants, but it was actually someone that we departed with, and that's Kevin Zeitler. I think Kevin Zeitler going to Baltimore was a really good pickup because now he's going to fulfill the Marshall Yanda spot, the void that he left when he retired, because the offense wasn't nearly as effective when Yanda wasn't there. They were trying to replace him with some Band-Aids. It wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And now you get someone of Zeitler's caliber to fulfill that void. They're going to improve for sure. And another signing that I enjoyed was Joe Thuney going to the Chiefs. The Chiefs, they're already filled with so many weapons, but they released their left tackle and the right tackle. And Joe Thuney, yes, he's a guard by his primary position, but the dude has literally played every position on the offensive line, so he's versatile. So all these injuries that they've dealt with in recent years, and having to shuffle the offensive line, having someone like Thuney who hasn't really missed much, if any games at all, and being able to plug him and play him anywhere, it's going to benefit them and allow them flexibility on like their offensive line depth. So I think that was a really good signing. And one last signing is James Johnson to the Browns. The Browns, I mentioned in our mock draft that I had them going with JOK. I'm not going to say his name, but from Notre Dame, he's a linebacker, but he could play safety as well because they needed help on the defensive end. And John Johnson is so slept on as a safety. So coming over from the Rams, I think that was a really good pickup. You pair him with, the other guys that they got there, and Greedy Williams, Denzel Ward, Ronnie, I forget his name. You should know. Bama guy, safety. Ronnie. Dang. I just blinked out. They traded him from the. They traded for him. They traded for him last season with the Jags. Ronnie Harrison, safety. Yeah, Ronnie Harrison, John Johnson. So that's a nice little duo for them. Obviously, they need more help on the defensive end, but they improved last season as a team. So that's only going to benefit them in that secondary. And they also got your guy, Tack McKinley. So that was a nice little signing for them too. So the Browns, they got better, but we'll see if they'll continue their success. They're trying to stay good. They already had years of suffering. They don't want to deal with that anymore. But what is your least favorite signing thus far?
So far, my least favorite signing, and I don't think it's based on scheme fit, or I think it's primarily my least favorite signing because of how much they paid him. I think it's Nelson Aguilar to the Patriots. I think they paid him a lot for I don't know. I just don't think it added up in my eyes, at least. He hit a grand slam and everything he was doing in free agency, but he paid way too much.
For sure. It is a guy that...
It is.
I mean, they brought him to stretch the field, and I think he's a good receiver in terms of that role. But to pay him that much for just one really good season in Oakland? Like, bro, did you not see the season before in Philly when he was dropping everything? Like, they definitely overpaid for him. I mean, I think it was still a good pickup for the offense. But in terms of finances, I don't see it. But I like what they did with Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. My favorite pickup that they had was Jonnu. So Cam to Jonnu, I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that.
That's
my least favorite signing has to be Andy Dalton to the Bears.
Yeah, I can see that.
Bro, they paid that man $10 million. What did he do to deserve $10 million? Last season he didn't yes, he was a capable backup for Dallas, but he didn't really do anything to deserve $10 million. And yes, you can mention his resume, like he's a winning quarterback, yada yada, with his time in Cincy. He made the playoffs. But what did he do when he made the playoffs? He didn't do anything. And for Bears fans, I feel for them because you got all the rumors. Oh, we're gonna get Russell Wilson. We're gonna get Deshaun Watson, and then rumors come out saying we're gonna make a strong push for Russell Wilson, which they did. I'm not saying they didn't, but then they go out and pay the red rifle.
Red rifle, yeah.
$10 million. That's my issue. Is $10 million for Andy Dalton at that. I mean, if you're gonna pay $10 million, I would have traded for Marcus Mariota because Marcus Mariota was getting, I think, $8 million, and he literally just restructured his contract with the Raiders to stay. The brief exposure we got of Marcus Mariota in Las Vegas, he looked like a totally different quarterback. And I'm not saying he wasn't talented in Tennessee, but you can see he grew as a player. So
he'll definitely be better,
especially in that system. Especially in that system, the reason why they were so successful at the end of last season was the run game, one, and two, Mitch Trubisky was a mobile quarterback. Nick Foles was not. So he's able to move the pocket, and when things break down, he's able to use his feet. Marcus Mariota is one of the best quarterbacks on the run. Like, he's the one that's going to extend the plays and things like that. I think that would have been a better move. And I think you could have got him for cheaper. Like, just trade a couple draft picks. And you're paying less than $10 million for someone that's actually going to help you win games. I don't see the Red Rifle winning you any games.
I don't like it. I feel like it's when you could get someone else in there that you could start training, or like use your draft pick to back. rather than taking someone who you know, well, he's not going to get you to the playoffs. Not going to get you to the playoffs, that's for sure. But I don't know. It feels like they just settled, and they should have kept.
They definitely did. And I'm not gonna seem. I don't want to seem like I'm hating. But no. I'm talking about what I'm about to say. I don't want to seem like I'm hating. But I'm gonna actually show some love. I actually like the move of Ryan Fitzpatrick on Washington. I know we were just talking about our least favorite, but Ryan Fitzpatrick, you love to watch the guy play. And he was playing so well in Miami last season, and he got the starting job snatched from underneath them, and he still felt like he was a starter. And Washington seems like they're going to commit to him for at least this season. They might draft somebody and develop him. If not, they're going to develop people who are already part of the organization. But they seem committed to him, and they're like, our defense is good, so just go out and do you. And then they went out and got Curtis Samuel, which I think was a really good pickup. So, as a Giants fan, I'm still excited to see him play in Washington, as long as he's not playing the Giants. So that's what I mean by I'm going to show love. There you go. But to transition that, who do you think has had the worst offseason thus far?
The worst offseason? Damn, I'm gonna have to think about this for a second.
It's personal opinion.
Oh, no.
It's personal opinion. So just feel free to say whoever you want.
The first team that comes to mind is the Texans. But what's not bad about what's going on over there? It kind of feels like picking them.
I feel like they're just picking up any and everybody at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't
just so they're like
they
Deshaun Watson. Look who we got. Stay. Because that's another signing I didn't like. Philip Lindsay to the Texans. I don't get it. The reason why I don't get it for him because they just restructured David Johnson, and they picked up Mark Ingram. So what are you doing going there?
It doesn't make sense.
You literally could have picked anywhere, and you chose to go to the Texans. But then with the Texans, how the hell are you going to utilize all the three running backs? One of them is not going to get that much playing time. And if I'm going to say, I think Philip Lindsay is the most talented running back in that room currently. Who has the most potential? David Johnson, but he's not the David Johnson of old. We've seen that already. Mm-hmm. So you can continue on why you think that's the worst. They've had the worst offseason, but I just want to rant a little bit.
It's exactly like you said. It feels like they're picking up whatever they can, and that's not how you build a winning football team. There's a recipe to this. You get what you need, and then you go to the draft. You look for your other needs, and you build accordingly, rather than just dishing out money to whoever's going to come. Which, to me personally, I don't know why the players are still going there anyways, but at the same time they have their own reasons. I can't judge a man for the choice he makes.
They're getting paid. You can't complain.
But it's just, if it was me and I was in free agency, I'd be like, the Texans, I kind of want to stay away from that. But
you got to think about it too. They're searching for some people are searching for PT. Some people are searching for a paycheck. So
if you're signing a 1-year deal to go over there and just ball out for a season because there's nobody else there, then yeah, I understand it, because then you're gonna get your payday at the end of the season because somebody's gonna see you. But other than that, it looks like there's been no methods to their madness. It looks like it's literally just been madness over there. So that, I think, is the worst free agency.
I can't disagree with that, but I'm gonna pick a different team, obviously. But I can't disagree with that just because they went out, signed Tyrod Taylor, traded for Ryan Finley.
I was actually happy about Tyrod though.
No, that's a good insurance plan. But what I'm saying is, you picked up 2 quarterbacks, but you're committing to Deshaun Watson, quote unquote. Then you go pick up 2 running backs, and then you're asking Sammy Watkins to sign with you guys, and they're trying to pick up more receivers, more weapons, but that's not the issue with the team. The team was the defense.
Yeah.
Defense and obviously protecting the quarterback. So that's what I don't understand because they lost a lot of close games, mainly because they couldn't defend a soul. A soul for a soul. They couldn't do it.
Do,
Um,
do they have any draft picks?
do they have any draft picks? They have, like, I think the second lowest amount of draft picks, only to the Seahawks, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But they're they don't have no first round or second round pick, I believe.
That's bad. And they have anything about them picking up defense?
Yeah, it's
So
looking
what are you
it's
doing
looking
here?
rough. It's looking rough. I know they made a trade. They traded one of their linebackers for Shaq Lawson.
Okay.
So I've seen that move. So that's
Still
probably
not
the
enough.
only move I've seen in regards to defense. But
Yeah.
speaking of the Seahawks, I think they have had the worst offseason thus far, in my opinion. And I'll speak about it right now. Main reason why I say that is because all three teams in their division have made so much progress, and I feel like they've stayed stagnant. Like, if not worse, they've stayed stagnant. Like, they
Mm-hmm.
just recently re-signed Chris Carson. Okay, boom. They traded another pick, which they were already short picks. They traded another pick for Gabe Jackson, the offensive lineman, the offensive guard from the Raiders, which I think is a good pickup. So don't get me wrong. But now you're trading
Yeah.
away more assets that you desperately need.
He-
And you lost Shaquille Griffin, your best corner, and you could have used him to come back. Like, your defense was already suffering, and you could have used him whether he was going to play your cornerback 2 or be your cornerback 1. I feel like the Cardinals have got much better just with picking up J.J. Watt, whether he's the J.J. Watt of old or not, picking up A.J. Green, whether he's the A.J. Green of old or not. I mean, both are not going to be the top weapons. Like, J.J. Watt's not your main pass rusher you have to worry about. You got Chandler Jones on the opposite side. A.J. Green's
Mhm.
not the number one receiver. You have DeAndre Hopkins on the other side. Then they went out and they were picking up. They traded for Rodney Hudson,
Yeah,
a
this
center,
game busy.
to protect Kyler Murray. Like, they lost Kenyon Drake. Yeah, who cares? Like, he was replaceable. Like, you're not saying he
Mhm.
wasn't good in the offense. He was replaceable. Chase Edmonds in his place played well. And if not, you can go out and draft a running back in this running back class. He's replaceable. So,
You
and
know.
you sacrifice someone like Kenyon Drake for these three players that do well. Don't get me wrong, I don't think they're going to win the division. But when they still improved from last season, the roster. And then we go to the 49ers. 49ers were just in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and the only reason why they did so bad last season were because of injuries. So
Mhm.
now they've gotten better because they got Alex Mack. Sorry, I had to mention it again, but they got
It's
Alex
okay.
Mack.
We didn't do what we should have.
They're getting everyone back in free agency. They re-signed Trent Williams.
Mhm.
Defensively, you might say that they got worse because the departures and stuff like that, but they're not as bad as people think. Like, the pass rush is still there. They
Yeah.
still got Fred Warner, who's still a top linebacker in the league. You got Tart, who's an underrated safety. Corners, you can draft corners.
Mhm.
Like, they can still perform well. And then you have the Rams, who clearly have a really good defense with Donald and Ramsey, leading the way.
Mhm.
And then you went ahead and upgraded your quarterback with Matthew Stafford. Now they also just signed Deshaun Jackson to be the receiver 3 to join, Cooper Kupp and
Robert Wood.
Robert Woods and Van Jefferson, and then Cam Akers and the rest of the crew and the running back. Bro, that division's got much better, and I feel like the Seahawks have stayed stagnant. And I honestly am going to predict right here that they're going to, if they don't change their ways, they're coming in last place in that division. It's not much of a bold prediction, but it's a prediction at that. So that's
It's kind of funny.
that's where I'm going with who I think lost the offseason. So let's end this podcast with some love. So show some love. Who do you think has had the best offseason thus far?
The best offseason? I mean, the Patriots came out strong, and, they know how to get it done. So I think Belichick knows what he's doing. Everything besides giving Nelson Aguilar all that money. And even then, even giving him all that money, I think he will pan out to be the player that they want him to be. Which,
I mean, they do well. They do well maximizing like their players' talent.
yeah. And it's also funny to see how the Patriots make their biggest splash in offseason in years, and the Giants suddenly seem like they're turning that corner to be competitive again. It just, it's funny how life works.
Because they want to meet again in the Super Bowl. Because you already know the kryptonite of these the history of these franchises. In recent years, or not recent years, in the past 2 decades, we know the Patriots' kryptonite. You could say it's Tom Brady's kryptonite too, but we'll just say the Patriots in this instance, and say the Giants have their number when it comes to big games. But
Yeah.
I was gonna mention the Giants as a big winner this offseason, or who I think won the offseason. But I was gonna show love to the Patriots. But yeah, since you mentioned them, I'll mention the Giants. And I don't want to seem like a homer, but I think low key they've had an impressive offseason to the point that they've surprised me. They've surprised a lot of folks, and they come into this offseason with little to no cap space. And all of a sudden, Gettleman, with his big old textbook, figured out how to work the cap space and finesse the cap space. Like, the cap space is fluid, and with the cap space dropping and coming to being a surprise, like, no one expected the Giants to be this aggressive in the offseason. Like, they expected one big splash. Maybe that's Gallaudet. Boom. The rest is just, small little signings, which they did. But they were like really good signings, like low risk, high reward. But then to follow that up and get a Dory Jackson, and like not just get him on a 1-year deal, you sign up to a multi-year deal and you pay up for him. This is not Gettleman. I don't know what's gotten into this man, but he realizes that his seat is hot. His seat is hot. He's had 3 consecutive 10 loss seasons. If he doesn't start winning, that man is out of there.
The bounce.
Yes, so he realizes his seat is hot. Joe Judge has a vision. The players are sold into that vision. And they're not only sold into that vision, they're selling other players in the league to come join them and believe in that vision with them. Like both Gallaudet and Adoree Jackson both said a lot of Giants players have reached out and they sold them on the vision. When they talk to Joe Judge, they see that he's genuine. They see that, he's straightforward, and they believe in his vision. Kyle Rudolph, another big signing that they made. I think
that was a key. That one.
Yes. I think he's going to fulfill that Jason Witten role in Garrett's offense like next season. He might not be the Kyle Rudolph of old, but he's still a red zone threat. So, and he can block. He's not the greatest blocker, but he can block. So, I'm telling you, you got Kyle Rudolph, John Ross, Reggie Ragland, Kenny Gallaudet, Adoree Jackson. Like, there's these small signings, and then obviously the big splashes that are going to make immediate impacts for next season. And I'm looking forward to it. Because Adoree Jackson, he can play special teams. I don't know if they'll have him play special teams, but he can. Gallaudet, I don't know what to say about Gallaudet.
And with the NFC East, it only takes a couple moves to be a playoff contender in that division. And once you get to the playoffs, it's 4 games. So,
but my thing is, the Giants, although they didn't win the division last season, they were the best team in that division. And if it wasn't for, them losing, and obviously they got to win to make the playoffs, but if it wasn't for them, like, beating themselves in certain games, they would have been in the playoffs. Like, people blame the Eagles for losing that Week 17 game. It shouldn't have came to that.
Yeah,
If Evan Ingram caught the ball against the Eagles on Thursday Night Football, we make the playoffs. If the game Dak got hurt and Andy Dalton came in, if the Giants closed that game, we make the playoffs. If the Giants finish the comeback against the Bears, we make the playoffs. My point being, listen, we were 4-2 in the division last season. Both losses, we were winning those games and we choked. It was against the Cowboys and the Eagles. I'm telling you, we should have been 6-0 in the division. We were clearly the best team in the division. Our offense was bad. I understand that. Our defense carried us to what we had, but our offense only had to do so much, and they just couldn't get it done. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm saying. I think we were the best team in the division last year, and a lot had to do with Dak getting hurt. But even then, even when Dak was playing, they were losing. So I don't want to hear that. So for them to be already the best team in the division, regardless of record, they are now the most balanced team in the division on paper. So it makes this division that much more interesting because all these teams besides the Eagles have made improvements. So I mean, the Eagles signed Anthony Harris, so that was a good signing. But they signed Joe Flacco, and they were trying to get a Dory Jackson, but the Giants were like, no, not today, my friend. So I'm telling you, Giants are going to make some noise. They're up and coming. And I know I seem biased because I'm a Giants fan. So I'm just trying to show love. But so I'll try to show love to someone else. Let me find somebody else. Dang, this is hard. Because you took the Patriots from me. So, you know what? I'm going to go with the Vikings. They overpaid for Patrick Peterson. Not saying they didn't, but I think that was a really good acquisition compared to what they have. And they stole Dalvin Tomlinson from the Giants, and he was a really good player, very underrated defensive tackle. That signing reminded me of the Linval Joseph signing when they stole Linval Joseph from the Giants, and that was just him hitting his prime. I think Dalvin Tomlinson is just hitting his prime. He's a good run stopper, so he's going to help that defense. That defense is going to get better, and the offense, we already know what the offense is. So they just have to improve the offensive line and obviously the pass rush and add some more pieces to that defense. But that team is definitely going to do well. So the additions of Patrick Peterson and all right, so with Isaiah just staring at me, I guess he has nothing to say. So that's all we have for you guys today. Let us know in the comments, in the reviews, who you guys, what were your favorite pickups, your least favorite pickups, who you think has won the offseason thus far, who do you think is the loser of the offseason thus far. We want to hear from you guys. Coming this April before the draft, we are going to have our mock draft 2.0. So just stay tuned for that. It's going to get interesting. It's going to be different from what the first mock draft. And pay attention. UFC 260 is this weekend on Saturday. And if you have not already, go check out our most recent episode of UFC. I believe it was episode 13. Episode 13, go check that out. We talked about our predictions for UFC 260. Unfortunately, the Brian Ortega and Alexander Volkanovski fight is canceled due to COVID, but they postponed it. So we just don't know the date yet. But before Isaiah goes, Isaiah, who do you have? I know you watch UFC. Who do you have walking out as a heavyweight champion? Stipe or Ngannou?
For me, it's hard to go against Ngannou, so I'm rocking with Ngannou.
Okay, you have the underdog in this one. You heard it here first. He's got Francis Ngannou. Until next time, be on the lookout. We're going to have another episode dropping Thursday, so just stay tuned. Peace.
You're talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep. We're talking about balls deep in love. I'm talking about balls deep. My my boys talking about balls deep. We're talking about balls deep in love.